The crystal doors of Grand Crest Bank parted, and Devin Carter stepped in, cradling his 3-year-old daughter, asleep on his shoulder. His shirt was creased, and his eyes carried the hollow weight of months of sleepless nights. Around him, men in sharp suits moved with the self-assuredness of those who had never faced hunger. Evan approached the VIP counter, hands quivering as he retrieved the worn bank card, the only keepsake his late wife had left him. His voice barely rose above a whisper. "I just want to see my balance." No one truly knew what lay within that card, not even Evan himself. For 2 months, he had not slept more than 4 hours each night. Lucy, his daughter, woke at unpredictable hours, calling for her mother. In the darkness, he held her, murmuring reassurances he did not believe. 3 weeks of unpaid rent pressed on them. The refrigerator offered a single carton of milk, 2 eggs, and half a loaf of bread. He had skipped meals so Lucy could eat. Before illness stole her away, Sarah, his wife, had worked as a medical assistant downtown. Evan had been a freight coordinator, but left his job to care for her. Bills accumulated relentlessly, insurance covered fragments, and the rest shadowed him as relentless debt. Sarah's last moments were fragile. Evan sat beside her bed, holding her hand, while Lucy slept in the next room. Her voice was a whisper. "Keep the card," she urged, fingers weakly curling around his. "Don't lose it. Promise me." He promised without asking why. After the funeral, Evan discovered the card in Sarah's jewelry box, tucked inside a small envelope with his name inscribed. A plain, scratched bank card, its silver Grand Crest Bank logo dulled by time. He turned it over, puzzled, yet he kept it, slipped it into his wallet, and tried not to think of it again. Weeks later, in their cramped apartment kitchen, he stared at an eviction notice taped to the door. Lucy played nearby with the worn stuffed rabbit, missing an ear. His hands trembled as he read the letter. 5 days to pay or lose their home. That night, he emptied his wallet on the kitchen table. $362, a grocery receipt, a photograph of Sarah, and the mysterious card. He stared at it, unsure if it held any funds. Sarah had been ill too long, she could hardly have saved anything, yet he had promised. The next morning, he dressed Lucy in her cleanest clothes and carried her on his shoulder. She was light, small for 3, almost weightless in his arms. On the bus downtown, he counted the stops, watching the city grow taller, shinier. By the time they reached the financial district, Lucy had dozed against his neck. Grand Crest Bank, a gleaming structure of glass and steel, reflected the sky. He had passed it before but never entered. Inside, the marble floors and palace-like chandelier intimidated him. A woman in a navy suit passed without a glance, heels sharp against the stone. Evan felt invisible, Lucy unnoticed on his shoulder. At the main counter, a young woman with kind eyes looked up from her computer. "Good morning. How can I assist you?" she asked. Evan shifted Lucy and placed the card on the counter, hands still trembling. "I need to check the balance on this." She swiped the card, frowned, tried again. The screen blinked unresponsive. "Hold on a moment," she said, typing quickly, brows furrowing. "This card is flagged for internal access only. I'll escort you to VIP services." Evan blinked. "VIP?" She smiled gently. "It's just a different system." "Follow me." Through frosted glass doors, they entered a quieter section. Dark wood lined the walls, and furniture gleamed with expensive elegance. Leather chairs cradled quiet conversations of clients and consultants. A desk near the back was pointed out. "Wait here. Someone will assist you," she said. Evan adjusted Lucy, sitting carefully, aware of the judging eyes. A pinstriped man glanced briefly, disdain barely hidden, then looked away. A private office door opened. A woman stepped out, early 30s, sharp features, hair in a sleek ponytail, black blazer and heels that echoed authority. Her gaze swept over Evan, taking in the wrinkled shirt, sleeping daughter, exhaustion etched across his face. No smile, but a cold flicker in her eyes. "I'm Victoria Hale, Senior Account Manager. Elena said you need help with this card." Evan nodded. "I just want to check the balance." Her eyebrow lifted. "You've never checked it?" "No," he admitted. "My wife left it for me. I never used it." A trace of amusement flashed across her face, as though she knew a secret punchline. She returned the card to her desk. Evan followed, holding Lucy. Victoria gestured him to sit, inserted the card, and typed. "So," she said without looking up, "you've carried this card for months and never checked?" Evan tightened his jaw. "I didn't think there was anything on it." Her fingers flew across the keyboard. "Then why come now?" "Because I have no other options," he whispered. Victoria's eyes appraised him, then returned to the screen. The system loaded slowly, the only sound the air conditioning's hum. Evan tried reading her expression. She revealed nothing. Then the screen shifted. Victoria froze, fingers still. Her eyes widened, color draining. She leaned forward, staring as if witnessing the impossible. Evan's heart raced. "What is it?" No answer. She blinked, re-examined the screen, clicking frantically. Elena noticed the change. "Miss Hale, is everything all right? Get Mr. Phillips." Her voice trembled, barely controlled. Elena hurried away. Evan leaned forward, pulse quick. "What's wrong?" "The card?" Victoria met him for the first time without condescension. Shock, and something else fear etched across her face. "When was the last time you discussed finances with your wife?" Evan's throat tightened. "She never spoke about money. We barely got by." "I don't understand." Victoria turned the monitor. Evan stared. Numbers too vast, arranged impossibly. The balance read, 78,423,650. Evan's breath caught, vision blurred. "Desk gripped for support." "That can't be right. The system doesn't make mistakes like this," Victoria said flatly. Evan shook his head. "There's no way." "Sarah worked at a clinic. We had nothing, not even enough for treatment." "Then a broken bar. Where did this come from?" The records indicated that this account had been quietly accumulating funds over the years, with deposits arriving in measured, deliberate increments from a private medical trust. Evan's hands trembled as Lucy stirred lightly against his chest, her tiny fingers clutching his shirt. He held her closer, as if she were the only anchor in a world suddenly unmoored. "I don't understand," he admitted, his voice raw. "I don't know anything about this." Victoria's gaze remained unreadable, her attention sharp and probing. The VIP lounge around them had fallen silent. Patrons subtly turned, sensing the tension without daring to intervene. Leaning back in her chair, Victoria's fingers tapped lightly against the armrest. 78 million, she murmured under her breath, the words almost to herself. Evan looked down at Lucy, peaceful in sleep, completely unaware of the storm enveloping them. His mind whirled. Sarah had never spoken of money, never mentioned anything of the sort. Yet she had insisted he keep the card, had made him promise. And now, here, in this cold, gleaming bank, Evan realized his life had shifted into an uncharted reality he couldn't yet comprehend. The number on the screen seemed impossible. $78,423,650. He read it again, slower this time, as if hesitation could alter its truth. It did not. Lucy shifted softly against him, her breath warm against his neck. His body reacted instinctively, holding her tighter while his mind remained frozen. Victoria's expression was a puzzle he couldn't decipher. Suspicion, disbelief, curiosity, perhaps all at once. She leaned forward, fingers interlaced. "Mr. Carter," she said with measured calm, "I need a complete honesty. Do you know where this money comes from?" Evan shook his head, his voice rough. "Number." "Sarah never said a word about this." Victoria's eyes narrowed. "Your wife worked at a medical clinic, and you were a freight coordinator. Neither role generates wealth like this." "I know," Evan said, frustration surfacing. "It makes no sense. I didn't even know the account existed." Victoria studied him silently, then returned to her keyboard, scanning documents rapidly. Around them, the VIP lounge patrons no longer pretended to ignore them. Phones were raised discreetly, whispers exchanged. Evan's mind wandered to the ordinary life he had expected. Just enough for groceries, a few bills set, and now he found himself at the center of something immense and incomprehensible. "The deposits began years ago," Victoria said finally, "all from a single source, the Harmon Family Foundation, a private medical trust." Evan frowned. "I've never heard of them." "They are a charitable organization," she continued, "supporting medical research and compensating organ and bone marrow donors." "Does that mean anything to you?" Evan's thoughts raced. Sarah had never mentioned donation. She had been focused on Lucy, on survival. Could this explain the account? Nothing. he murmured. "I have no idea." Victoria clicked through more documents, stopping suddenly. Her eyes widened. Evan's heart lurched. "Your wife donated bone marrow," Victoria said softly. The recipient was the Harmon family's son. Evan felt the air leave his lungs. A scanned document appeared on the screen, Sarah's signature clear even years later. Victoria's voice softened further. She requested full anonymity. The trust was established to provide compensation after the procedure, held until her death, when it would be transferred to you. Evan placed Lucy gently in the chair beside him, pressing his palms to his face. Sarah had saved a life quietly, without a word, leaving behind a fortune he hadn't known existed. His hands, rough from toil and worry, seemed inadequate against the magnitude of her sacrifice. "Perhaps she didn't want you to feel indebted," Victoria suggested. "Or worried." Evan considered the months of struggle, the eviction notices, the empty fridge, the nights awake, and all the while, Sarah had shielded them with this secret. He wanted to scream, to cry, to demand answers she would never give. James Phillips approached, calm, poised, exuding authority. "Mr. Carter, I understand this is overwhelming," he said, extending a hand. "The account is legitimate, but we need to verify everything and ensure all protocols are followed." Evan shook the hand weakly. "Numb. Options. Trusts. Estate planning." Words that felt like another language. Phillips continued patiently, explaining financial strategies, investments, and protections. Evan's mind could barely grasp the scale of it all, but Lucy, resting against him, reminded him of the purpose behind the promise Sarah had made. Together, Victoria and Phillips guided him through the steps. Immediate needs were addressed: rent, groceries, bills. A trust for Lucy was established, and long-term financial safeguards outlined. The weight of it was immense, yet Evan began to feel a fragile grounding, a glimpse of stability amidst the chaos. He watched Lucy eat, small hands tearing at a muffin, her innocent voice asking questions that pulled him back from the edge of panic. He thought of Sarah, lying in that hospital bed, her last act of love echoing into this new reality. He held Lucy close, whispered promises to both of them. When all paperwork was completed, Evan felt the first true exhale in months. The money, the security, the life he hadn't imagined it was real. Yet it came with the understanding of what had made it possible. He was no longer just surviving, there was a chance now, a path to something better. Victoria's voice softened, warm for the first time. "This isn't about deserving, Mr. Carter. It's about love. Your wife ensured you and Lucy would be safe. That is all that matters." Evan nodded, tears blurring his vision. Lucy wrapped her arms around his neck. The grief and gratitude twisted together, but for the first time, hope whispered through. He stood, carrying Lucy through the marble corridors, the city stretching beyond, unchanged but somehow different to him. The envelope in his hand held more than a card. It held a future shaped by love, sacrifice, and faith. A future he was finally ready to meet. The city stretched out around him, tall and indifferent as always, yet something had shifted. The weight that had long pressed on his chest had lifted, replaced by something light. Not joy, not yet, but a fragile hope. Evan found a bench and sat, Lucy nestled in his arms, her head resting against his shoulder, eyes heavy and content. He gazed at the envelope in his hand. Inside was a plain, unassuming card, yet it carried a significance far beyond its material form. It was a symbol of Sarah's love, her sacrifice, her unwavering belief in his ability to care for their daughter. Even when he doubted himself, he remembered the last time he had held her hand in that hospital room, how much trust she had placed in him. It had broken his heart then. Now he understood. She hadn't been saying goodbye, she had been saying, "I will take care of you, even when I am gone." Evan pressed the envelope to his chest, closing his eyes. "Thank you, Sarah," he whispered. "I won't let you down." Lucy stirred, sleepy and soft. "Dad, you broken bar, are we going home?" "Yes, sweetheart," he replied, brushing her hair from her face. "We're going home." The bus arrived, brakes hissing as it slowed. Evan lifted Lucy, swiping his card with a practiced hand. The driver gave a brief nod, and Evan found a seat near the back. Through the window, the city flowed past the same streets, same noisy, but he felt different. He allowed himself to dream. An apartment with sunlight spilling into a yard where Lucy could play, schools that nurtured her imagination, trips to the mountains and beaches Sarah had longed to see. Living, not merely surviving. The bus rumbled on, carrying them past familiar towers and streets, and for the first time in a long while, Evan felt a steadying breath settle within him. By the time they reached their stop, Lucy had slipped into sleep. He carried her up the cracked sidewalk to their building. The peeling paint and creaking stairs no longer felt oppressive. The apartment seemed to welcome them back. He laid her gently on the couch, tucking a blanket around her. Lucy curled into herself, peaceful, tiny hand beneath her cheek. Evan sat nearby, chest tight with love, grief, and gratitude all at once. His thoughts lingered on Sarah, the woman she had been, strong, kind, selfless. She had given everything, even when nothing remained. Now it was his responsibility to honor her, to nurture their daughter, to build the life Sarah had dreamed of but could never see. Evan pulled the old, worn card from his pocket, turning it over slowly, thumb tracing the scratched surface. A small piece of plastic, yet it had shifted everything. He walked to the window table, placed it gently in the drawer beside a photograph of Sarah, her face frozen in a fleeting moment of happiness he barely remembered. He held it as he viewed everything she had left behind. "I love you," he whispered, voice catching. "I'm going to make you proud." Turning back to Lucy, still asleep, the eviction notice taped to the door seemed meaningless now. Tomorrow, he would handle it. Tomorrow, he would rebuild. Tonight, he simply sat in the quiet of their small apartment, holding the most precious things of the daughter who slept in his arms and the memory of the woman who had saved them both. Outside, the sun cast the city in molten gold and deep orange. Inside, Evan watched Lucy's peaceful face and let himself believe that perhaps, just perhaps,